On Tuesday, Abbott is going to get inaugurated for another couple of years as the Texas governor, and this last year of focus has been trying to get him unseated, trying to get some actual change. How do y'all feel about that Tuesday deadline that it's happening again?
I think I'm just a bit frustrated. I'm just frustrated. It's like, and I guess disappointed.
Talk about where that comes from.
From a lot. I think he doesn't. I don't think when he's seen. I don't even know how to explain it. I don't think he's really paying attention to what we're asking. I don't know if he even cares, but I feel like he's not paying attention at all, and so that's really frustrating.
And I would say our strategy when we worked with DC versus Texas has to change. And so we think we used the same blueprint, was speak to these officials, but they're not leaders. So we have to take a step back and try to reach the constituents and share our story and let them know that this could be their story if they don't help us.
Yeah, we figured we would do a different approach that way, because we feel like if we talk to them, and help them to understand where everyone is coming from, maybe they will be the ones to change their mind, and then they go to their politicians. So,
do you think that y'all were trying to do that though before the election happened? You were trying to reach people?
We were sharing our story, and definitely within Uvalde, but whatever our tactic was, it didn't work, because not only did Texas turn out for him, but Uvalde specifically did. I don't know where the miscommunication happened, or I just don't understand. It was disheartening, but it is what it is, and we realize it's a harder road now without Beto, but that's fine. We're in this for the long run, so.
Yes.
Was there any disappointment with your fellow Uvaldians who didn't show up and stand with you on the polls that day?
I think it was a total shock to everyone, a complete shock to everyone. Because we were supposed to be Uvalde strong, and that showed us different.
I think we put a lot of pressure, both Democrats and Republican, on these candidates, but it never should have been about these candidates. We don't have to love them. We have to agree with what they stand for. And so Beto was standing with us in gun reform, and that's important to us, especially in Uvalde when you've seen, what happened here. It's very personal. Maybe your children were on, in the gymnastics class on a softball team. The pain firsthand. It should have been about legislation and not about the officials themselves.
I think this issue of guns in Texas can be so divisive because it seems to be, for whatever reason, such a huge culture here in our state. What do you hope people hear from you three? What do you want that message to be when it comes to changing this gun legislation?
I think we need to come to the table together. Maybe there's something that I don't know. It's not guns aren't something I grew up with. It's not in my family, so I don't understand either. So if we can all come to the table and sit down together and learn from each other, let us share our story, maybe you'll understand why it is so important that an 18-year-old doesn't have access to this type of weapon. Maybe there's something that I need to learn as well.
Communication,
Exactly.
Just total communication and understanding, and compromise somehow.
Like,
For the sake of our children.
Exactly. We have to
I don't
meet
understand.
somewhere in the middle, definitely.
Something Abbott said since this tragedy happened is it's unconstitutional. You can't actually change those laws. You can't raise the age like has been proposed. But then you see other states. I think Illinois was the most recent one, and then in Florida after Parkland, they changed those laws. What do you think he needs to learn? Why do you think that he is so strong in saying it's against the Constitution?
I think the Constitution is a living document, and it changes with us over time, and now's the time for change.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like everybody uses the Constitution as an excuse, but in their time when they drew up that Constitution, there was a total different way of living back then compared to now. Because given the chance, if that Constitution could be changed, I promise you that somebody would jump on it really quick to be able to change it and update a Constitution. Unfortunately, that's basically impossible, but they need to stop using that as an excuse and realize that we don't live in those times anymore when that Constitution was drawn up.
When you look at states that have passed that, how does that make you feel? When you see that Illinois actually stood up and said, you know what, we're raising this age.
I think it gives me hope. I'm hoping the federal government usually likes to sit back and wait to see what states do. We've seen that, in the cases of marijuana, abortion. So if more states, blue states, make this change and ban this assault weapon, there's hope that maybe the federal government steps in at some point, even if it's not Texas that's making the change.
Well, Governor Abbott really hasn't come to the table with y'all and hasn't offered up solutions when it comes to gun legislation. Have there been other legislatures, either in Texas or on a national level, who have come to the table and said, what can I do? How can we change this? How can we meet you all halfway? Has there been any hope like that?
No, not.
I don't know that they've actually sat down to the table and we've discussed actually banning the assault weapons. I'm trying to
Or any sort of
no
reform. It's all just been mental health and
definitely
school security.
mental health.
But that seems like a reactive response instead of taking a proactive action.
If you look at the statistics, mass shooters are not typically categorized as people having mental health issues. If you look at the data that supports who commits these acts, it's people who do not have diagnosed mental health issues. Do you think that's something that legislatures need to actually take into account, that mental health, while it is important, isn't the solution?
Oh no, they were, most of the times law-abiding citizens until they entered a classroom with a weapon of war. Mental health is an issue in this country, but it's so large that to get to the root of the problem will take decades, even if we started tomorrow. In the meantime, I think we need to decrease access to these types of weapons.
Is there a focus now that, maybe Texas is a lost cause? Let's go toward the federal government. Let's see if they'll sympathize and hear us. Or are you still going to keep working on the Texas legislature, hoping that someone's heart will break with yours and say, let's do something?
Well, I think we've discussed it before amongst ourselves, and we know that Texas is going to be hard, and we've always known that's going to be a hard fight. Of course, I don't know if it'd be even easier, federally, but I think we're going to continue with both. I think we have to continue with both. Of course, like Kim said, we have a different strategy, but I think we're going to continue with both.
I think we're powerful enough to take on both. I always wanted to move from Texas. I guess I was kind of running from the problem. Now that we're here forever with Lexi, I'm definitely going to fight for change.
In this new legislature, Dave Phelan, after he was reelected for House Speaker, he had a brief statement where he said, we do need to do something to protect children. He didn't quite say guns, he didn't quite say schools, but he did say we need to do something to protect children. How does that make you guys feel?
I think he has to say that. He's a politician. Uvalde is just a couple of months ago. So he has to, this first legislative session, say that we have to protect children, but he needs to back that up with action.
What's the best way to protect children?
I think gun reform. Right now, as a compromise, raising the age from 18 to 21, red flag laws, background checks, but also at the same time, yes, addressing the mental health.
Do you think Uvalde has done enough in these almost 8 months now to protect kids, make them safer inside of their schools?
They're trying. I'm not saying that we're 100% there. There is a big difference from 8 months to now as far as their protection level, but it's not completely there. We have to also understand that it could happen anywhere, and it could still continue to happen here because we're not 100% protected, and there's still ways if somebody really wanted to. That's why we're trying to make sure that it's fully protected, and we don't want to turn our schools into prison, safety, security, or whatever. We don't want to do that. You know, we want to be able to feel, you know, that our children are protected when we, or our grandchildren, our sisters, brothers, whoever we send to school. We want to be able to make sure that at the end of the day, we'll be able to pick them up and not get a phone call, or we don't want this to ever happen. Not even to, not just to us, but to everyone, but and everyone around the world. It's if we continue to fight for this safety, and if we continue to put pressure on the school and get more involved with everyone, not just us, we really need complete backup in trying to get more security at our schools. We need to get our police department at our schools.
Does it shock you that the police still don't have keys to the schools?
It does, but we were reassured that it was going to be a different, because the way they're trying to fix it is to not have so many keys and not have a repeat of what happened again on May 24th of trying to find a key to open a door. So they're trying to fix that issue. So we're hoping that will be fixed pretty quickly as well.
Absolutely. With this legislative session, it's so new. There are several new individuals who have been elected. There's also people who have been in their seats for a while and who say my constituents won't support a change when it comes to gun laws, when it comes to X, Y, or Z. What do you have to say to the new legislators that have been elected, and then also to the old ones who are sticking to their ways and saying, this is what's typically got me elected, this is what's gotten my backing?
I think it's not about politics, it's about children. So you need to kind of take a step back and really think about what's best for your constituents. And I think that's also why we say we need to reach the constituents. I think that's just the best strategy.
For you all, this tragedy is still a part of your everyday life. I mean, I don't think it'll ever be not a part of your everyday life, but for people on the outside who maybe don't even live in Texas, do you feel like maybe some of the memories, some of the sadness, some of the heartbreak has ended for people who this isn't in their backyard, who this didn't affect personally? Do you think that maybe some of the sympathy is going away, or do you still feel like that's strong with you all?
Oh, absolutely. For those that can move on, they will. We'll just be here forever.
And they have, yeah, they have moved on. You can tell. You can see it around. I know it was worldwide, and now we are. It's a lot less support that we're seeing.
What is it like being almost 8 months out from this? What does that feel like?
An eternity since we last saw our babies.
Melinda, what is it like for you?
Just gets harder. It doesn't get easier, it gets harder. And unfortunately, this is something that's not going to change, and it's not going to get any easier. I know at some point we're all going to have to be able to live with it, but we'll never accept it, and we'll never be able to be where we were before May 24th. There's always going to be that void. And there's nothing that's ever going to be able to change that. Nothing's going to change that.
Same, it's harder, a lot harder, a lot harder. And of course, not just for me, because we see our kids, our other kids, our families, and it's not, how do you make it better for everybody when you know you yourself, it's harder, it's a lot harder. And exhausting. It's like you're just tired of fighting and hoping that people try to understand you or try to at least put themselves in your shoes. But of course, we're not going to stop. And I think that's what keeps us going is our babies.
You say you want to appeal to the constituents moving forward, appeal to people's hearts, not politicians' hearts, but people's hearts. What do you have to say to other moms or other grandmas who hear you and have heard you? What do you want them to understand now?
You don't want to be on this side. Again, this is something that you can't come back from. This is something that will take you in a place that you don't want to be in. And it's very hard to come out of that dark place. And to be able to know that somebody has the control to make a change and doesn't, and something happens to your child, your grandchild, your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, it's very, very, very heartbreaking. That, like we try to tell every politician that will listen, think as a parent, think as a human being, not as a politician when it comes to these types of massacres, because there is no coming back from this. There's nothing you can do to change it once it's done.
You all have been let down, unfortunately, a lot. That day and the months that have followed, November, when Abbott was reelected, you've been let down a lot. You've been told no a lot. How do you keep hopeful that one of these days, by one of these tactics and appealing to someone, that something will change? How do you keep that hope alive?
I don't even know how to answer that. I think I just try every day. Every day I just have to tell myself, okay, you have to wake up. It's like, get up. It's like, do this. It's like, if not, who else is going to do it for us?
Do you think 2023 could be the year? Are you hopeful that this year we could see Texas make a radical change? We could see the age at least raised, because most Texans, when they're polled, I think it's almost 75% have said they would support raising the age.
I think we could see it. I don't think we'll see every ask that we're asking for, but I definitely think that it is possible, in the realm of possibility, to see the age increase. I also just hope people realize that if it had been 21, it just wouldn't have been our kids. It would have been one of yours that would have been in that classroom.
For people who see this, for politicians who see this, what specifically do you want to change? Starting from what's the most important to you, working your way down, what do you specifically want to see change?
The age limit.
Yeah.
I think that's their number one priority for us right now, is definitely the age limit.
Some sort of background check.
And the background check.
Something needs to be changed, though, because this particular person didn't have a criminal background, so maybe looking at school records. I understand that they're kind of a rabbit hole to go down, but surely there's some sort of way we can include that in there.
Is there anything else that y'all want to add about what you're going to strive for moving forward, now that it is a new legislative session, now that it is a new year? Is there anything else y'all want to add?
We talk a lot about strategy, but I never want it to be lost that our only interest is saving children, just protecting children.
Yeah. When Sandy Hook happened, I shared their story and then never followed up with their story. And now, as a grandparent that has to see their son hurt for their daughter that they will no longer see, makes it that much. It makes me regret not following up with Sandy Hook and Santa Fe and Sutherland Springs and not keeping them and backing them up. That's the regret that I have. And so now my words to everyone out there that is listening is, don't have that regret. If 5, 10, 2, 3 months, a year, whatever it takes, 10 years, it happens again to your child, don't sit there and have that regret without doing everything you can to try to help back us up. And as we're backing up Sutherland Springs now, Sandy Hook and Santa Fe and everybody else, like, we're trying to push for what they started, and we don't want to give up, and we should have done to help them. We should have helped them to begin with. So now we're asking everyone that's listening to help us back everyone up so we can get that change so it doesn't happen to you. You do not want it to happen to you. You don't.
I think in America, you just become numb to mass shootings. Every other day, something you know, as low as 1 or 2 people are shot, and then all the way up to these mass shootings. But we can't just say, oh, that's terrible, my heart goes out to them, prayers, and move on. It'll just happen again until it's them.
Prayers don't save kids, action does.
Right, because no one is immune to a bullet. There's no age limit to a bullet. There's no discrimination. You know, you have to help make that change somehow, some way.
Thank you guys. I appreciate y'all for sitting down and talking about this. I know it's not easy.
Keep up to date with all of San Antonio's top news, weather, and so much more by clicking the like and subscribe buttons below. And once again, thanks for watching KSAT.